Because you are picking the wrong matchup, somehow Anti-nade is the least skilled ability in the game. Anti-nade is the only one of these abilities on the entire support role that actually leaves her remotely vulnerable. It's unreal that that's a take. Like, I refuse to believe this guy actually plays Overwatch. I'm sorry. You can't seriously believe that. Like, and he's in top 500. All right, guys. All right, we've got another video from Amaterasu. Sorry if I got a little heated last time. His content last time was a banger. So, and it had some takes in it. So I'm going to give this one a shot. This one is called Why Support is Not Technically the Easiest Role to Rank Up On. And I just want to come out and say support is absolutely the easiest role to rank up on. It has the most override abilities at the lowest skill requirement, and you can do the most in the game on support. Like, for example, just by default, supports can do damage and heal. Damage heroes can't heal people and do damage, and support's damage is comparable to DPS. So, like, you can control the most in the game as support. You can play what you want as support, and generally, you're the last to die as support. So, supports have the most impact on the game. My unranked GMs are always the easiest on these support heroes. Let's see what he has to say.
The current Overwatch Twitter discourse is about support being the easiest role to rank up on, and some people may have seen responses going on about how it's mathematically that does not check out. And it feels like a lot of people just don't really understand what people are talking about when they say that the math does not check out for that.
It's not about math.
That supports
the math doesn't matter. The reality is, like, first of all, there is some math I'll bring up later on. The math doesn't matter, though. Like, supports can just do the most in the game, right? Oh, give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna mute my Overwatch in the background. All right, here we go.
The role to rank up on. So before you like dislike or anything, just hear me out at least.
It's not easy to rank up, but it's the easiest of the three.
And subscribe as well, because like you could always just undo it later if you feel like it. But please don't.
You know what, bro? I'll sub. I'll drop a sub. After I got so heated last video, you earned a sub, my guy. I got you. So again, and I just want to set this precedent early here, right? If you saying support is the easiest role to rank up on does not mean we're saying support is necessarily easy for anybody to rank up on. While that is kind of true for some characters, this is just in comparison to the other roles. Like, obviously, some like plat player can't pick support and then immediately get to GM, right? They still have to improve to some degree. But like the level that you have to improve on support to get to GM is so much less than every other role. And there's some stats that actually came out a long time ago that Defran did that proved this. So let's go.
Don't do that, please. I'm begging you. Please just like and subscribe. I'm trying to work on some cool stuff that isn't just me talking into a microphone, but it's taking time.
I'll drop you the sub, bro. I got you.
Microphone for today.
I got you, man.
The main crux of the whole argument that the math does not check out for support being the easiest role is because a lot of people, when they are having these arguments about which role is the easiest or the hardest to rank up on, are talking about roles like they're different builds in like Elden Ring. Like, oh, magic is easy to beat the game with. Real men play with only two-handed weapons. No shields, that's cheap, that's easy. Just rolling and a big old two-handed sword. That's the hardest way and how real gamers play Elden Ring. The problem is that argument does not really work at all.
I don't think anybody's made that argument.
5 versus 5 team-based game like Overwatch. You're trying to compare these different roles separately when the reality is that every game will have 2 teams consisting of 2 supports, 2 DPS, and 1 tank.
Yeah.
Mathematically, you can't really say that one role is easier to rank up on than another role, because in every single game, 2 people playing that role are going to win and gain rank, while 2 people are going to lose.
Okay, yes, that's true, but that has nothing to do with the degree of difficulty of the roles themselves. Like, yes, that if you're explaining math in that sense, yeah, but that's not answering the question at all. The question is support the easiest role to rank up on? And the answer is yes, because it can contribute the most to the game at the easiest, the lowest requirement of skill. And there's so many heroes that are like this that you can be really, really good on. And to be frank, this is why when you see the most support players, and Defran did this study, I'll talk about this in a little bit, who are high rank on only support and low rank on both the other roles, because you don't need fundamental game knowledge holistically to get a ton of value on support, especially with all the MOs and the override abilities. It's genuinely so much more forgiving of a role than any of the others.
Every single role is net neutral in that regard. Of course,
he's not wrong
only
about
one
that.
Tank, so there's not 2 tanks, there's only one. But
he's right about this
same
map,
thing.
but it doesn't answer the question.
One tank is going to gain rank, the other tank is going to lose rank. Unless it's like a draw or something, but that's very uncommon. So you can't really say that a role is easy to rank up on, because in that case, why is the other team not ranking up? The game is clearly not easy for them if they're not winning on support. Every game has 2 people losing on support and 2 people winning. You can't really say that it's
This has
easy.
nothing to do with
getting into the other issue. It's that the question of which role is the easiest to rank up on
this is the
is
actual
actually not a good question. People actually mean one of 2 questions that both have a different answer. Which role is the easiest to rank up on if you deserve to rank up, and which role is the easiest to rank up on if you do not? And the answer to this is which role gets the most value over the same role on the...
It's the same question. It's the same thing. That doesn't matter. I don't think that matters. Like, ultimately, like, you're not gonna, like, look, you're not gonna climb if you don't deserve to rank up at all, and you're feeding, right? So, like, that's not what anybody's saying. So, like, that second part of the argument doesn't matter again. The argument is only if you are deserving to rank up. Like, supports in this game, this is the reality of it. Like, you can deserve to rank up less, but you get so much more out of the characters because they can just do more in the game. Like, you have the opportunity to do more in the game. You get bailed out more in the game when you make mistakes as support, right? So the second part of that question is completely irrelevant. Like again, I see this a lot with support players, and I saw him do this yesterday too, or in the other video we reacted to too, where like they'll just bring up random points and go on and on and on about them, but like it doesn't matter at all to the argument. Like the first part of this video, the entire 2 minutes and 46 seconds here, that didn't answer the question at all. That was just random gibberish that wasn't even on par with the subject, right? It wasn't even about the subject. It was like, well, mathematically, you know, there's 2 of each role, so statistically this doesn't work. It's like, no, but that's not what anybody's saying. You have to look at the degree of difficulty of the character and what you get out of it. So I don't know. The second part of this doesn't matter at all.
The other team. Basically comparing the ability of you on your role to get more value than the enemy team on their roles. There's always going to be exceptions, but that's going to be the basic line of logic. If you are able to consistently diff your opponents that are on the same role as you are, you should be able to win more games than you're losing. Because of that,
it doesn't matter though. Like, again, you guys saw me playing tank yesterday. I was gapping my tank so hard. Every game on Zarya, I was gapping. But every game, the enemy supports picked double immortality supports. It did not matter how much better I was in their tank in Masters. I couldn't pierce the ability, right? Those support players were undoubtedly not playing better than me, and they're undoubtedly not better than me as a whole. But because their supports simply could use the immortality abilities, it completely negated my skill set, right? In old Overwatch, when there weren't abilities that just overrided skill, this probably wouldn't have been true. It would have been DPS, but they've continuously added override abilities to the support role that can negate any gap anywhere when used properly, regardless of the skill set of your teammates or the other team. So support has that potential. No other role does. And you can see it in my unranked GMs.
That's why comparing value to value, like comparing support to DPS, doesn't really work. Because if support value is incredibly easy as just getting a cooldown and throwing it, that also means the other team's supports are going to do the exact same thing, so it kind of cancels each other out. Because
yes, but you're still overriding the tank and the DPS is... No. Just because they can do it too, like, again, you're comparing support to support. But this argument is about support's easier to climb on than the other roles because support overrides and has the abilities that can completely control and override the other 2 roles regardless of the skill set of the player. And you can see it in my Zarya games, in the games where they went Weaver Kiriko or Bat Kiriko or any of those abilities where, like, literally I was playing perfect on Zarya. I set up my kill opportunities perfectly, and there was just no possible way for me to outplay those abilities. And these are players that I'm, like, literally entire skill tiers higher than, right? Like, and not only am I a skill tier higher than them, but the disparity between a Masters player to a top 500 player is the same skill disparity from a bronze player to, like, a plat player, right? It is a massive gap for that small margin, and it just doesn't matter because the support players have the ability to just override anything at no mechanical skill. So saying, oh, well, their supports can do it too, again, that's completely eluding the argument. The whole argument is you have to compare support directly one-on-one to the amount of impact they can give to the tank and DPS roles. And because they have the override abilities, and they can do damage, and they have the better passive, and their entire kits are just better in general, yes, the answer is yes. It is so much easier and more chill to get value on support. Like, you can get double the value on support with half the effort as, like, a tank. It's insane.
Both teams are just going to be getting the same amount of absurd support value that's very easily accessible.
No, they're
from
not.
The cooldowns
No, they're not. Again, because it depends on if the other team support are actually using those abilities correctly. If they are, the role's objectively better because the MOs are override abilities.
Heroes have. I feel like another thing that a lot of people just don't talk about in regards to support abilities is that a lot of them take 0 skill to use. I say this as someone that plays support, but like Ana's nade is not a skill-based ability. I'd say that Sleep Dart is, but not nade. Getting value out of Anti-nade on Ana revolves less around your skill on the character and more so on the enemy team's lack of skill at playing against Anti-nade.
I mean, you just can't make this shit up. I'll be real. Like, this dude has to be baiting. This has to be a bait comment. That has to be bait, right? Like, Anti-nade is it got way easier to use in this game. I agree with that. But it's way harder to use than Immortality Field or Suzu or Life Grip. Like, I'm just flabbergasted at this shit. I can't believe this shit.
Nade is kind of like a skill check ability, but not for you, for the enemy team. Everyone's waiting for the competitive overhaul in Season 9, so I got bored and just duoed with a friend playing Mauga Moira and just got both accounts to top 500 because it's funny. And if you're wondering why we did Mauga Moira and not Mauga Kiriko, it's mainly because my friend that was playing the Mauga just enjoyed playing Mauga. He's the one that helped me with all of the Mauga rollout videos. He just enjoys the character. And in playing the character a lot, he got actually good at managing Mauga's cooldowns and playing around Anti-nade to the point where it was better for us to just run a support that is more able to enable the Mauga, which the Moira pick is very long to explain, but it was something I theory crafted before they nerfed him. And also we played both the accounts to top 500 after the Mauga nerfs. It wasn't even before when he was broken. It
adds up.
It's the current Mauga we have right now on live. Like, the biggest thing with Mauga Moira is that Coalescence is just basically a free fight win if you just play around it with your Mauga. But as we played, he developed an actual disdain towards Kiriko just because he felt like Cleanse did nothing. Anytime he got cleansed, he was already going to play around it, and he wasn't going to die if he did not get cleansed of the anti effect. But long tangent sort, a lot of abilities like anti are not skill-based abilities.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So because you were duoed with your buddy who's playing Mauga, whose weakness is the Anti-nade, the Ana Anti-nade, right? Anti-nade, that was funny. See what I did there? I didn't mean to do that. So the ability that's designed to be the weakness to your duo, because your duo is in an inoptimal matchup. Shout out to 5v5, by the way, because there's no other tank to help mitigate that weakness. So his stats have to be overhauled, and the Anti-nade, Anti-nade, I love that, now can really, really negate his skill. Because you are picking the wrong matchup, somehow Anti-nade is the least skilled ability in the game. Anti-nade is the only one of these abilities on the entire support role that actually leaves her remotely vulnerable. It's unreal that that's a take. Like, I refuse to believe this guy actually plays Overwatch. I'm sorry. You can't seriously believe that. Like, and he's in top 500. She has no escape. She's vulnerable. You guys are just on a terrible matchup. You're like that. Just because you guys like choosing the bad matchup, which is your choice, and that's fine, doesn't mean that Anti-nade is the least skilled ability in the game. Like, oh my god, I can't fathom this. This is insane. Oh my god!
Play around them if you know your character, or if you just position well.
And again, the support passive. Now, here's where I will give him credit, and I have to be fair. The support passive made it way less skill-based. There's way less risk to doing it. I can agree with that, but that doesn't mean it's the easiest one. So let's go ahead and remove the support passive. Let's remove passive healing. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's give it to every hero in the game and increase everybody's health, because that's going to fix a lot of problems.
Baiting it out and blocking it. The end point is that getting value out of the ability is not based on your own skill at the character or at the role. It's based around the enemy's lack of skill in dealing with the ability and trying to play around it, since it is just a very free.
There's
and
two.
easy
It's
cooldown
both.
in
It's
most
both.
situations.
It's both. It's both. It's both.
Especially in 5v5. In 6v6, getting a nade was slightly harder because you had to play around
Slightly.
two tanks that both
Slightly. Ana's a single target healer, so she couldn't compete with Bap and a lot of the rush mirrors, so you needed Winston Diva. Diva could eat the nade. Wonky could bubble the nade. Zarya could bubble the nade. Ryan could shield the nade. It was way harder. It's 5v5 that made it easier, right? And it's still harder than every single MO in the game that's not blockable. Anti-nade can get blocked. Brig Pack can't get blocked at all. Brig Flail can't get blocked at all to proc Inspire. Bap Immortality Field can't get DM'd, right? Brig Pack can't get DM'd either. On a nade can get DM'd. Sleep can get DM'd. Drone can't get bubbled and stopped. Suzu can't get bubbled and stopped. Life Grip can't get stopped. These abilities are all overrides that are unblockable by the enemy team. And Anti-nade is the only one that can be interacted with. How in the world is this the most skillless ability on support? What are we talking about? This is insane.
Would have defensive cooldowns that could block it, but in 5v5 with only one tank, it's basically free 90% of the time. It's just up to the enemy team to play around it, either by having their tanks actually play around it, and having
or
their
picking
team
a hero that can
not
be negated.
all stack up on each other in front of the Ana, or, you know, running a Kiriko. But back to the whole argument of...
Or running a Kiriko, or picking a tank that's actually a favorable matchup into that. Like, yes, of course your duo who's playing Hog and Mauga is weak to nade. That doesn't make nade skillless.
Mathematically proving that support is not the easiest role. It is, and it isn't. Going back to the question that I split into two questions, which role is
this is
the
a great
easiest
soundtrack.
to
He's got
rank
good
up
taste.
in if you deserve to rank up?
I need
I'd say
healing.
that would be DPS.
Sam's roasting this dude again.
Thank you for the 20, Gun. I appreciate it. I'm not even roasting him. I just, I can't believe what I'm hearing.
Or probably tank. Which role is the easiest to rank up if you don't deserve to rank up? Support. There's a video Metro did about trying out support as a beginner, which was pretty interesting.
Both are support.
Just
He's wrong.
Watch it if you have time. It was well edited, very nice video. It's just fun. But he ends it with showing a montage of all of his worst plays and says, and just paraphrasing it, he says he doesn't think he would have been able to get to Grandmaster making all of these mistakes if he was on a different role. And I feel like, yes, that's true. And that kind of goes against the point that a lot of people make that support is the easiest role to rank up on. Because that just means that your role is not impactful, that you can throw and die off cooldown and still win a game. Attacks.
What? No. No. If you can make them, if you can still make a ton of mistakes and easily win the games because your role is so much more powerful, it's not because the role's not impactful, it's because you can do so much on the role. You can do damage, you can heal, you can bail out any type of ability, and you can do it at the lowest mechanical and game sense requirement in the game. I was looking at this last night, chat. Take a look at this. No other hero in the game is like this, by the way. Let's go back to our favorite site, Overbuff. And again, these stats aren't 100% complete, but you can get a general understanding of them. Let's see. Let's see. Ironically, support somehow has a positive one. I don't think that matters. But take a look at this. Also, support has the highest KDA in the game, by the way, the support role. Again, because it's the most forgiving, right? Look at hero stats. There's only one hero that has a positive win rate in every single rank, guys. Only one hero. Let's take a look. Take a guess as to which hero it is. Let's take a guess here. Oh, in bronze, Lucio positive, Zen positive. Oh, wait a minute. Brig has the highest win rate in bronze at a 55% win rate. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Brig has, wow, wait a minute. Again, highest win rate in silver. Oh my God, wait. Surely that doesn't continue. Surely the trend doesn't continue. Oh, wait a minute. 55% in gold too. Wait a minute. What about plat? Oh my God, wait. Again, 55%. Oh my God, wait. 55%. What's going on? Wait a minute. Are you telling me Brig? Oh, 55%. Oh. Like, I don't know if there's another role that has heroes that just are able to do that. Right? Like, across the board. That's because it's so forgiving in the passive value. Like, you like, there's not another character. This just shows you. This is my whole point about Brig and what I've said. I hate to make this a Brig video about Brig, but like, I don't think there's any other character that literally can maintain that high of a win rate across every rank. Right? Like, no other role has a character that can do that, I don't think. Like, let's check tank. Let's start in bronze, right? And again, these stats aren't 100% accurate, but it tells you a story. Diva, Mauga, and bronze. Jesus, I'm not sure if Mauga's a good example. Watch the only other role be Mauga. And this would be my funny point about Brig. Diva's slightly positive. Mauga's the only one with like an overwhelmingly positive win rate, right? 53%, 53. And you know what's crazy? Even with Mauga being, and this is last 3 months, this was in his broken state. Even then, across all the ranks, guys, even then across all the ranks, his win rate wasn't as high as Briggs when he was a broken pay-to-win character. 55%. Let's see. Even then, his win rate was lower than Briggs. That's crazy. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that. Wow. But again, that's just not the point. I'll let him keep talking. But that's just like, if you look at supports, they have so many heroes that just bypass the rules of the game. And that's the point of the role, that no other role can do that. It's because it's the easiest role to climb on, and the abilities that the heroes are designed with are just stronger than almost anything else.
Zero. People ask, oh my god, who's boosting him? No one. He's just playing support, and every game is just like 50-50, he wins or loses. Either his team's DPS are better than the enemy team's DPS, and you win, or your team has the worst DPS, and you lose. Support is just a role that provides so much free value that's easily accessible, that it ultimately starts to not matter in the long run because both teams are getting access to all of that free value.
No, it's just because both teams get it. That's not the point. That's not an answer. Again, the argument is that support gets the most value compared to the other roles. It's not comparing it to the other team also having it. That doesn't address the argument. The argument is that you have to compare support to both directly 1-to-1 to DPS and 1-to-1 to tank. And the answer is the support can do the most because it can do better damage than the DPS heroes, and it can deny any of the tank's value and undo anything the tank does. And it has a plethora of options to do it. You can pick the proper support pick into any comp at any time and get easy value in any situation. That is the reality. Comparing, just saying, oh, well, the other team has it too. That's not an argument. This is what these support players do, guys. This is what they do all the time. Again, I literally said it last video. They'll go on, they'll yap about a point that's actually nonsense, that they'll refuse to directly answer the question, and they'll keep on bringing points up that have nothing to do with what the conversation's about. Nothing to do with what the debate's about. Completely wrong.
There is very little that you can do to truly optimize that value more than the supports on the enemy team.
That's nothing.
Now, to get into stuff that might make people change their mind, saying that support is the easiest role to rank up on and is the most impactful, and that DPS is the least impactful role, means that every single DPS player is boosted as fuck. The game is a 5v5 team-based game.
That's not real. That can't be fucking real. That just cannot be real. The role that gets punished the easiest is the hardest. Is somehow like boosted. The role that like literally if you make one mistake you die on. The role where the supports half the time, almost every game, automatically deny any value. So you have to do twice as much in order just to get one kill. You have to kill the supports twice. The role that has the damage role that has a lower kill death ratio, because they actually die from their risks than support. That's just the most brain dead take I've literally ever heard in my life. Like I can't believe that, bro. I just can't. I just can't. Now, I'm gonna bring up the South State. So the DPS players are boosted as fuck. Okay, let's talk about Defran's study that he did. Okay, Defran did a study towards the end of Overwatch 1, trying to prove to people that support was the easiest role after doing his unranked GM on it. And this was really, really interesting. He took the amount of players at top 500 and over that were 4,400 plus on each role, right? So basically, if you as a player were 4,400 on all three roles, you got on this list. And I actually made that list as one of the DPS players, okay? The list, let's see if we can find this. Hold on. I can't find it. Here's what it said, right? So Defran took the amount of people who were 4,400 plus in Overwatch 1, which is like GM1 plus on all three roles and what role they made. The DPS players had the most amount by a large margin of players that translated to GM1 in all three roles. It wasn't even close. Like the list of DPS players who were like 4,400 plus on all three roles was like really, really long, way longer. The second most was tank with about like 2/3 to 1/2 of the amount of players that's skill sets translated to other roles. Supports was 25% of DPS players, right? And mind you, if you look at pick rates right now, support's the most picked role in the game in Overwatch 2. So what that tells you is that DPS is the most demanding role It's the hardest role to play, right? Because DPS had the most players that skill sets put them at GM1 on other roles by default. And support had the least, because support, it requires the least out of the player to get to high rank. That's why when you took the net of support players who were 4,400 plus, GM1 plus or more, and put them onto the other roles, their skill sets didn't translate to the other roles, and they weren't able to get that high rank on the other roles. That's because it doesn't require as much. They didn't have enough skills to climb on all three of these roles. And Defran pulled these numbers, and you can tell in game. It's because support's the most forgiving role, and you don't have to learn nearly as much to get to high rank as a DPS player. You don't have to execute nearly as much as a DPS player. DPS is the hardest role because it's the most punishable role. And to climb in Overwatch, it's not about making big plays. It's about not making mistakes, right? That's the key to climbing this game. You can ask any player. The worst thing you could do is die. And what do supports do? They die the least. They have the regen passive. They have the most bailout abilities in the game. They have countless abilities that bail someone out no matter what. And that's why it's the easiest to climb on, because you don't actually have to learn to make the proper decisions positionally to avoid death. Even if you make the mistake, no matter what, you're going to have the ability to get out of it for free, even if you make that mistake. And that's a big handicap to players. And it's a big handicap that when you take it away, they're immediately terrible. And it's really, really clear they haven't actually learned the fundamentals of the game to the degree of DPS players and tanks. When they, make a mistake, they die, and that's why they don't climb. So saying DPS players are boosted, but it's the hardest role in the game, this guy has literally no idea what he's talking about. And every study has proven this wrong.
Support really is the easiest and most impactful role in the game, then that would mean that the team with the better support players would just win every time.
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. Because you can't ignore actual execution. The issue with support is that you get to put in half the effort for double the value, right? That's what it is. That's why support is the easiest role to climb on. It's not because you could win every game on support. It's because it's so much easier to get more value on support because, again, you can deny and override any cooldown. This was not always true for support players. Before the immortalities got in the game, and I would say before Moira got put in the game, support players, including Mercy, by the way, aside from 5-man res, had to all be very smart and intelligent to climb. There was no shortcuts. There were no bailouts. If you made a mistake, you paid the price for it, and that's what made the game beautiful. Right, that's what made Jonak such a great Zen, because he was the ultimate glass cannon. If he made one mistake, he died, but he was so good, he never did, and he was popping off in the process. That's what made him so thrilling to watch and made so many Zen players around the world aspire to be him, right? Now that's not true. That's not true for support anymore, because Kiriko can TP through walls no matter the situation and avoid death and take the duel. And even if she fucks up, she has Suzu. Lifeweaver got so tanky with his little leap and his pedal that it was absolute cake to play him. I think people needed time to learn him. I think he was underrated, right? I think people were overhyping how bad he was, and then they buffed him and he was broken, right? Baptiste has 2 MOs on his abilities and 400 health pool. He's a tank because of his MO health and his shift, with the ability to jump around and reposition how he wants to. They made the support role unpunishable, and they can do damage and heal at the same time. So, like, the idea that you'd win every game on support, that's not what anybody's saying. And this is classic, just brainless arguing. It's completely avoiding the point. The point about why support's the easiest to rank up on is because it requires less to do more. Simple. Barrier to entry is lower to get more value. Therefore, it is the easiest role to climb on.
Don't matter, and that all the DPS players are boosted. You can't say that, actually that means I'm better than everybody because I'm winning my games as DPS. No, that would mean DPS is the most impactful role in the game. If support is the most impactful role in the game, you get carried every single game as DPS. That's what it means. And yet all the time people act like it's the exact opposite.
No, you just can't get direct value.
Every single support player is boosted. Get quaked on tweet. Oh wow, I can't wait till they nerf supports so that players like this are out of GM. And I'm like, that's gonna make it worse. That's gonna mean that supports are even more boosted than ever before because you're removing their already limited impact over outvaluing the supports on the other team. If you were to see, a Sojourn with a perma
What the fuck are you saying? What does this even mean? Hold on.
more boosted than ever before tweet, "Oh wow, I can't wait till they nerf supports so that players like this are out of GM." And I'm like, that's gonna make it worse. That's gonna mean that supports are even more boosted than ever before because you're removing their already limited
because you're making it so that when the supports make a mistake, they actually get punished for it and die, meaning that they'll lose more games when they're making the wrong decisions. Right now, it's okay to consistently make the wrong decision. You can make more wrong decisions on support because you just don't get punished for them and die. So that would mean the bad players who clearly haven't learned the game yet, who have no business being in this rank, right, would not be able to even get there in the first place. So how in the world could you possibly say that by making support harder to play, it would make it worse because more people would be boosted? What are you taught? This guy, I'm not gonna lie, has the most delusional Overwatch takes I've ever seen, but it makes sense from a Curie player.
Impact over outvaluing the supports on the other team. If you were to see, you know, a Sojourn with a perma Mercy E-Girl pocket, you're going to say the Sojourn is boosting the Mercy. If support is the most impactful role in the game, that would mean the Mercy is boosting the Sojourn. Not like...
No. Who said that support was the most impactful role in the game because of a specific hero like Mercy? See, again, this is a flawed argument. Mercy is one of the heroes of the original cast that actually got punished for mistakes consistently. And even in this game, she's better than she was in the old game because all of her techs have been made accessible to her skill floor, and she heals passively from healing targets now, when you could stop her regen altogether by just tagging her once or twice so she had to position better. The problem is not heroes like Mercy. The problem is that there are 5 other characters in the support role that people can pick that give them enormous value for what they're putting in, that double the reward for half the skill set, like Brigitte, who had the highest win rate across every rank. There's no other hero like that in the game, okay? It's Kiriko, who has the invulnerability and the TPs, who can override everything. It's Lifeweaver, who can life grip somebody out. It's Baptiste, who has Immortality Field. So you can't just point to one support hero whose design is literally to enable the DPS, a pocket pick, and say, healing. Oh,
bro is multiplying negative with negative, and in his brain it's still negative now.
Yeah, so the hero that's designed to pocket the DPS, the one support that's literally designed to be a pocket pick to enable DPS, somehow means that support is not as impactful as DPS. That's the niche of Mercy. That is her niche. That is what she is designed to do. That does not reflect the entirety of the support role, who have the override denial abilities that are brain dead easy, particularly the DLC supports like Moira, who removes single target decision making, who lets you get away from bad positioning for free, who lets you AoE heal for free, to then Baptiste and Brig, who do the same exact thing, who heal for you. You don't have to make individual decisions nearly as much, whose abilities constantly bail you out, to then Kiriko, who doesn't ever have to worry about her positioning to the degree of any other character in the goddamn game, who can 2-tap squishies and do DPS better than other DPS in the game, who can win every 1v1 in the game, who's the best 1v1 in the game, to Alari, whose pylon just stays up, and Narnia, who you can't break it, who can 2-tap any DPS in the game, who has a better DPS ult than most DPS in the game. So yeah, that is the problem. I don't even bring up Mercy. That's absolutely insane. These support players are absolutely batshit crazy. How could you possibly say that? There's no way you believe what you're saying. How are you top 500 and you think this? Because you play support that's broken.
Damage boosting, but I mean like actual like boosting. You get it. Basically, the whole argument about how support is the easiest.
This is why support players get flamed.
Kind of
like
really
this video
stupid.
proves that they just don't understand a single thing about the game. And this is what happens when you let players get half the value for double the reward. They never actually learn and understand any fundamentals of Overwatch.
Because when it comes down to what everyone believes about the game, that just doesn't work. Nothing would check out. In concept, mathematically,
yes,
nothing checks out.
Because it's not a mathematical discussion. The math you presented doesn't answer the question. Because you're comparing both teams as holistically to both teams. You're not comparing whether or not support gives you more reward than the other roles. You have to compare them one-to-one and how their interactions work in the game. You have to look specifically at how do tanks interact with supports. Oh, well, the supports override everything the tank does. Okay, how about DPS? Well, supports can do more damage than DPS a lot of the time. They're just as good in duels, and they have get-out-of-jail-free cards that DPS heroes don't have. And that's reflected in the KDAs, the kill-death ratios, of the DPS to supports, when DPS is 50% of what supports KDA is. DPS average KD is like a 3. Supports is a 4.5. And people might say, oh, that doesn't matter. No, it does matter because it shows you that they have more get out of jail free cards and they die less. And the worst thing you can do in Overwatch is die.
Out with this argument. It's a very silly argument to make. If you want to say that
you're right, your argument is really
boosted
silly
role in the game, that would also by nature mean that they are the least impactful.
No,
if they
no,
were
it
the most
wouldn't.
impactful,
What are you
the
saying?
best support players would easily be able to rank up.
No, it means it's more impactful because that means that you have to do less to get more. You have no idea what you are saying. If you can climb the most for the least amount, if there is less required of you to climb, that by definition makes it so that you are the easiest role to play. And not only does it require less to get the same value, but a lot of the times these heroes actually do more. And they have the strongest ults in the game too, as well as the strongest cooldowns. It's absurd.
But instead, you just see boosted support players getting ranked up. I've seen the Twitter clips. I've seen them.
Yeah,
now,
they're
as
dog
for what
shit.
you believe, I don't think anything really matters. Not just until Season 9 when we get the new ranked system, but just in general. You're arguing over which parts of the race car are the most important. And be like, I'm the tire. Tire is so much more impactful than the engine. In the end, it really feels like a lot of people are
No, it's not.
mistaking
What?
easiness for fun and stress, because support is just the most fun in the game. You're playing an actual unique and interesting game.
Yeah, it's the most fun because you don't have to worry about getting punished ever. Because it's the most forgiving. Because dying is not fun. But when that fun comes at the expense of the other two roles in the game, it's a problem. And this problem has been the thing that has destroyed Overwatch more than anything. Supports are becoming more fun at primarily the main price of the tank player. It sucks the most as the tank player because you don't have the tools on these heroes to pierce through these immortalities, right? And so you're kind of stuck dealing with them, and your role feels like shit, right? It's a little bit less frustrating for DPS because at least you have some burst damage potential to win this sometimes. Tanks don't have that.
When you're playing support. DPS players are just playing Call of Duty. Tank players are just playing CBT Domestic Abuse Simulator. They're just getting fucking destroyed left, right, and center. Hit with every single cooldown in the game. Like, if you've seen the gameplay,
because supports don't have to worry about them. Like,
this is just like top 500 Overwatch, but
look what he's doing. He just has to sit in the choke as Ana at no risk and spam at his tank. Well, his DPS have to figure out how to navigate the map by themselves because there's not an off tank to take the duels for them. So, like, it's so much harder as a DPS player because you have to make the right decisions to path here. But as Ana and Kiriko and Bap and all these other characters, you can just sit back here and get max value just by chilling at no risk. That's why support's the easiest to climb on because the other roles demand more out of you to get their win con set up.
Ana, which is a character I almost never play. Like, it doesn't matter that the enemy team's support is like 18-7 or something. My team is still just going to win because we have the better DPS and tank players. If our DPS are winning the DPS duels, then we just win. Now, if you try to put the whole supports are better DPS argument into the mix, I would still say that this kind of does not stack up at all because you are still trying to compare two different roles as a one-to-one in a
Yes, that's the entire point of the argument. Which role does more? Yes, that's what you have to do to see which role is the most impactful. You have to one-to-one compare their interactions in the game, check the degree of difficulty, and check the reward you get for that difficulty. Yes, that actually is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Instead, you're throwing bullshit math out there that doesn't answer the question at all and trying to say that you're right. No. Yes, it is the direct comparison between the degree of difficulty of the role and what it rewards.
A team-based game where you have a limited number of each role. Like, it does not matter if you're playing Soldier 76 or Baptiste or Kiriko,
yes, it does.
Or any of those characters. You're still going to...
Which characters wins the one-on-one there? Which character would be favored in the one-on-one? Bap would be favored against Soldier. Kiri would also be favored against Soldier. Shit, I think Alari on the right setup would be favored against Soldier. Zen's neutral. Ana's neutral. You want to talk about the one-on-ones? Sure, let's do it.
To get absolutely slapped by a decent Sojourn that just has a perma mercy pocket shoved up her ass that's just giving her a colonoscopy 24/7. A DPS that's actually getting support from an actual support character is just going to outperform any DPS or support DPS character 9 times out of 10.
Hey, Jeff, and what's the difference maker?
How's it going? I'm Jeff.
the support using the proper cooldowns. That is the difference maker. And Mercy is just a bad example because she's designed to make the DPS stronger. That's her entire kit, right? But if the Kiriko is there against the Sojourn Mercy in the 2-on-2, I'm betting on the Kiri because the Kiri can cleanse. The Kiri can deal damage and pierce it with the soldier and weave in damage, right? So, like, the Kiri is the best hero in that duel. So, like, you're saying, oh, because a Sojourn can 1v2 another DPS or 2v1 another DPS with a Mercy Pocket, support's not broken. The fuck are you talking about?
That's kind of why if you ever look at win rates on Overbuff, which is usually pretty damn accurate sometimes, most of the time, every once in a blue moon,
it's an indicator.
The best performing supports in the game are always the ones that are just really good at enabling teammates.
Rig? Sure, with packs. Okay. Like... it's not a point. That's exactly it. The supports dictate the duels more often than not because they have override abilities. And like, are you able to pocket your DPS? That means that it's entirely dependent on the support because the DPS is incredibly limited based on your skill set of your support, right? Let's talk PEMDOS as well. This is why another reason why support's the most impactful role in the game, right? You are the foundation of your team. If a team has a bad foundation, right, you troll. You're going to lose. But because it's so easy to get value on support, to be that foundation, the level of execution that you have to actually be valuable and do enough to win compared to the other roles is significantly less and way more forgiving. And that it's undeniable. It's undeniable. And every actual stat metric reflects that, especially the support KDA.
It's always just Brig, Lucio, Mercy. Illari's really good because Pylon. At some point, I wish we could just have, actual hero stats from Blizzard themselves, because I think there's a very few reasons why the community should not be able to at least see this data, and it would also make the balancing decisions that the game makes make a whole lot more sense to people, because people would actually
stats and low ranks don't matter nearly as much because the skill delta is so low you can't accurately tell if it's the hero that's effective or the player skill, right? Here, there's a couple things that dictate value on a character when you're looking at game balance, right? You have to multiply the effectiveness of the hero by the actual skill delta of the player, right? If the player's skill delta is low, but the hero is incredibly strong, then they can't get anything out of that hero. So say the skill delta is 0.1 bronze, right? But the actual hero itself is 1.0. 0.1 times 1 is just, it's still, what is that math? What am I saying here? Just 0.1, right? But if the skill delta is 0.5, that's 5 times the value on the same character, like in Diamond. You see what I'm saying? So, like, you can't accurately measure stats in low ranks for balance because this player's skill is varies so much. You can't balance a player's skill. You can't. It's impossible. It's in their own hands.
Try to see which heroes are performing the best right now instead of having to rely on, third-party websites.
A good example
like
of that is Sojourn. Sojourn's win rate in bronze is 40%, but she's still the best DPS in the game because the players are so bad they can't actually get value out of her. It's not the character that's bad. You can't change that via balance. I guess you could make it better. It's just harder to do. That balance wouldn't go as far. You have to tighten her spread and make her better at her skill floor and cap her ceiling, but...
everything, be correct. So yeah, I'll set up for now before this gets any longer. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Don't unlike, don't unsubscribe, please. Even if you don't like me, you don't have to turn on notifications or anything. I mean, you could just subscribe because, I don't know. Did you think I was funny? You didn't think I
did think you're funny.
I've been going on for a while. I think I did actually answer the question I posed at the beginning about why people give the whole, well, actually, mathematically, this doesn't work out. I just wanted to talk about this for a bit because it's fun, and also to add my own argument in that if you believe that support is the most impactful role in the game, then that means that every DPS player is boosted because the supports would be the one.
I don't think I've ever heard someone be so stupid at this game. No ifs and buts. Like, like this guy is just an idiot at Overwatch. Like it's like he'll spout random math, and then make a claim that's in Narnia. Like, dude, this dude is pole vaulting gold medal in the Olympics to his conclusions. Like, just leaping. This guy gets the gold medal, right? Like, DPS, the most punishable role in the game, in a game that's about not making mistakes. That's what Overwatch is about. If you want to climb, eliminate your mistakes. Don't try to make big plays. Eliminate your mistakes. That's how you climb the most. Yeah, he just has no idea what he's talking about. He didn't cite any useful stats, any useful information. His comparisons were inaccurate. He didn't look at the one-to-one in characters. He did not look at all as to the difficulty of the characters for how much you can get out of it. And again, the supports are just the foundation of the team, right? They are. They control the most. So when you start to eliminate your mistakes, they're the hardest to make. Supports are the hardest role to make mistakes on, and they're the easiest to deny plays from the other team, by far, because of these MOs. And there's a reason why the only support he talked about was Mercy, because if he had to talk about the other supports, guess what? He has no argument. So completely intellectually dishonest, the most delusional video I've ever seen. I can't believe I've never seen a player go back-to-back with two of the most brain-dead takes I've ever seen. But here we are. Let's see what else
is winning the games for them, because they are the most impactful. The supports would be boosting all the DPS players. And I feel like 90% of people would not agree that that's the case.
DPS players can't play their role to their potential unless their support players are decent. So, like, again, when people are able to climb on support without actually learning the game, it handicaps DPS a lot of the time, especially when they pick bad heroes.
So we'll have to continue looking into how Overwatch works and what actually gets value in the game. And you know what role is actually the most impactful in trying to win games. Goodbye.
Yeah, it's support. So yeah, that's not a real video. Anyway, wow. Absolute wow. Wow. I've never seen him. He has to be baiting for content. There's no way. There's no way Buddy's not baiting for content. I refuse to believe that. I'll keep reacting to it. It's content for us, but holy shit. Like, that can't be real.